I'm struggling too. I was really surprised by today's report. The headline number was going to be weak because there's sharp drop in gasoline spending, but I thought that the core number, ex autos, building materials, and gasoline would have been up at least modestly. So I tend to think that it's a little bit more of noise than anything else. I think it's a blip in an otherwise strong trend for the consumer, because look at the consumer backdrop. Healthy job growth, increase in disposable income, savings from the drop in gasoline prices, lower interest rates, wealth appreciation, and consumer sentiment is improving. It takes down our tracking for Q4 GDP, so we're now tracking 3.4% for Q4. It's still strong. The consumer spending numbers in Q4 on aggregate were still pretty solid because of the strong start to the quarter.
The core results missed the consensus numbers, which I think was the issue. When you adjust for a whole bunch of the noise in there, the legal charges you mentioned, above the core that we had a core earnings number of about $1.25. The big delta was that capital didn't improve. From a Tier 1 common ratio perspective. And, that's been a big issue. You've got the Fed that came out with their new additional buffer that they're going to ding JPMorgan particularly with. And that's something that investors have been really focused on, such as Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, and Bank of America, all sort of recovery stories in different ways, right? Morgan Stanley is a story where they're changing around the strategy, switching over to more of a wealth management business. I think you're going to get a better multiple out of a business like that. With Citigroup, you've got unlocking of the trapped capital that's stuck in there with the difference in between GAAP capital and regulatory capital. And then with Bank of America, you've got shedding legacy costs. And then you've also got a more retail-oriented deposit base, which is going to allow you to benefit from the rising interest rates to a greater degree.
Well, the distinction that was made between quantitative easing and the OMT is the OMT was a program that was really focused on banks that were sovereigns that were in financial difficulty. So it was on the surface, much more explicitly about funding governments rather than about implementing monetary policy. So I think for the doves, you've always had that argument that this ECJ decision doesn't really reflect any opinion on QE.